I never expected that opening my home for a few days would change so many things in my life, but that's exactly what happened when my nephew, Ethan, came to stay over. At 52 years old, I thought I had most of life figured out. My house was quiet, my days had a steady rhythm, and I had settled into a routine that suited me well. I was content, but sometimes I wondered if contentment had made me a little too comfortable, a little too closed off from surprises. Ethan's visit, as simple as it seemed at first, showed me that family connections have the power to shake us awake in the most unexpected ways. It all started when my younger sister, Jennifer, called me one Friday evening. She was frantic, her voice carrying the weariness of a woman who had been juggling too many responsibilities for too long. Jennifer was a single mom, raising her 14-year-old son Ethan almost entirely on her own. She worked long hours as a nurse, often picking up extra shifts to cover bills and make sure Ethan had everything he needed. I admired her resilience, but I also worried about her burning out. That night, she explained she had been scheduled for a string of night shifts at the hospital, and her babysitter had fallen through. She asked if Ethan could stay with me for a week. Of course, I told her without hesitation. You don't even have to ask. Bring him over tomorrow. We'll make it work. Ethan wasn't a stranger to me, but I wouldn't say we were especially close either. He was polite whenever we saw each other during holidays or family gatherings, but I knew he was at the age where he preferred to keep to himself, glued to his phone or his video games. I wasn't sure how he'd feel about spending a whole week in my quiet suburban home, but I was determined to make it enjoyable for him. After all, I didn't have children of my own, and in many ways, I saw Ethan as a chance to experience a little slice of parenthood. When Jennifer dropped him off the next day, Ethan stepped out of the car with his backpack slung over one shoulder and his hair falling into his eyes. He gave me a quick, almost awkward hug and then mumbled something about how his mom said he should be good. Jennifer thanked me a dozen times before hurrying off, clearly relieved. That left Ethan and me standing in the driveway, unsure of what came next. Inside, I showed him the guest room I had set up with clean sheets and some snacks on the nightstand. He nodded in approval, then immediately flopped onto the bed and pulled out his phone. For a moment, I worried that this would be a long, quiet week with very little interaction. But as it turned out, things took a wild turn, though not in the way I expected. The first breakthrough came at dinner. I had cooked one of my favorite recipes, chicken pot pie, with a golden crust and creamy filling. I wasn't sure if a teenager would enjoy something so old-fashioned, but Ethan devoured 2 servings before I could even finish my first. When I asked if he wanted more, he grinned for the first time that day and said, "You're a better cook than Mom." We both laughed, and just like that, the ice started to break. Over the next few days, I learned more about Ethan than I had in years. He was funny, with a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard. He loved basketball and dreamed of making his high school team, though he wasn't sure if he was good enough. He admitted that sometimes school felt overwhelming, especially with the pressure to get good grades while his mom was always busy working. I listened, really listened, and I could see how much he needed that. One afternoon, I suggested we go outside to shoot hoops at the park down the street. Ethan lit up at the idea, and we spent an hour passing the ball back and forth, him showing me moves he'd been practicing, and me laughing at my own clumsy attempts to keep up. A couple of neighborhood kids joined in, and before I knew it, Ethan was leading a full game. He wasn't just good, he was talented. His confidence on the court was something I hadn't seen in him before, and it made me proud. The wildest turn, though, happened midweek. We had planned a simple movie night, but halfway through, the power went out across the neighborhood. At first, Ethan groaned, upset about losing Wi-Fi and his chance to finish the film. But then, something surprising happened. Instead of sulking, he followed me into the kitchen, where I lit a few candles. We ended up talking for hours in that soft glow, sharing stories about my childhood with his mom, about the silly pranks we used to play on each other, about the times we got into trouble. Ethan laughed until tears streamed down his face. For the first time, he saw his mother not just as Mom, but as a person who had once been a mischievous teenager. That night changed something between us. He wasn't just my nephew anymore. He was becoming a friend. Over the rest of the week, We built routines together, morning walks with my dog, evenings spent cooking dinner side by side, afternoons where he helped me with small chores around the house. What amazed me was how much he seemed to enjoy it. He wasn't the withdrawn teenager glued to his phone anymore. He was present, engaged, alive. When the week ended, and Jennifer came to pick him up, Ethan surprised us both. He hugged me tightly and said, "Thanks for everything. This was the best week I've had in a long time." Jennifer looked at me with wide eyes, clearly shocked, and mouthed the words, "Thank you," once again. After they drove away, I sat in the quiet house and realized just how much that week had changed me too. I had opened my door thinking I was doing my sister a favor, but in truth, Ethan had given me a gift, a reminder of the joy that comes from connection, from listening, from making space for someone else in your life. It was messy at times, unpredictable, even wild in its own way. But it was also heartwarming, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.